Hi, and welcome to Strictly Salina. I'm your host, Carol Bell. Today joining me is Brenda Gunder with the Rolling Hills Zoo. Brenda, always a pleasure to have you.
Yes, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So at the zoo, there's a lot going on this year with your 20th anniversary. So we thought it would be fun to talk about how the animals have changed over the 20 years and maybe like their habitats and everything. So tell us, because you've been there from the get-go.
I have, yes. This coming October will be 22 years, so yep, I've been through the beginning. And I think the exhibits and the animal collection at its core, I think has been the same. You know, we've always had chimps, orangs, the rhinos, kind of the big animals. But probably the management of them obviously has adjusted, and as animals have aged and passed away, then of course we work with the SSP to replace them. I can remember, you know, the animals we would get in, and we didn't really think about 5 or 10, well, at least me personally, but of course I was a keeper back then, 20 years from now. But you know, now that I'm on the flip side of that, I think, oh, maybe we could have adjusted a few things just management wise. And zoos in general, you know, we're always learning about more and more about the animals from studies in the wild and their long-term study in zoos. So we do evolve with those studies, and so things we did 20 years ago, we wouldn't do 10 years ago or even now, or things we didn't know we were supposed to be doing, we of course change and evolve to take care of the animals.
So can you give me an example of something like that?
Well, I would say some of our breeding.
Okay.
So we've got addax, which is an endangered species, and their exhibit, and we've had different various hoof stock in that type of an exhibit, but the building kind of housed, you know, maybe a male and 1 or 2 females. But then what if you had male offspring, or if you wanted to separate off a couple of animals and then, or have an offspring that needed to stay with you 2 or 3 years. So we did expand that building, and we added a chute system that we could manage them, weigh them without having to anesthetize them, knock them down, and as well as be able to get weights on them and so forth. And that's something that's brand new that we're getting ready to start trying. So we are breeding that species. Another area might be our North America exhibit, where we managed a mixed species. So we had, you know, whitetail, pronghorn, mule deer. But if we needed to separate an aging animal that needed maybe a little more time to eat, or was on some type of medication, we didn't have that capability. So we've added like additional separation holding space within the exhibit. So they're still with their group, but yet if we needed to give them some more time, we can separate them to eat.
Yeah, good. So let's talk about like the animal welfare, like how it's changed from beginning to now.
Right. I think a lot of, I mean, animal welfare is a word that's used and quite often these days. It's things that zoos have been doing from the get-go. You know, we check out their nutrition and find out exactly what they should be eating. We provide that in various enriching ways. They have great medical care. Something that has evolved over time has been maybe how they're utilizing their exhibit, and then putting the data behind that. So it's not just like, oh, I see them up high in that corner and I see them down low here. It's how they use their entire exhibit. And so we use something that's called like a spatial data collection. And so we'll watch them for 10 or 15 minutes and then note where they are in the exhibit. It helps tell us, are they utilizing it? Are they exploring it? Maybe we've put out some enrichment that we would like to see if they're utilizing. That's one aspect, just seeing where we can improve their environment that they have. And then also just managing their weight as well, and watching for fluctuations, if it's gone up or gone down. That's another way we might look at their health. And then that, along with enrichment, their spatial usage, and kind of just their overall, are they curious? Do they interact with the keeper that comes around? Are they willing to train with the keeper? And we look at all of those aspects, not just once, but over a period of time, because it's ever changing, to kind of determine, are they doing well in our care? And what could we do to improve that?
So it's not just if they're eating or resting or getting along well with others.
Right. We want to look at the animal as a whole. And that's something that's definitely evolved, at least the expectation of our accrediting foundation, AZA. That's something that has evolved. It's things that I think keepers and animal caretakers, we've always done. We know when an animal maybe not be utilizing the space or maybe laying around too much, you know, for what compares to the wild. But that way we're already doing that, but this is a way that we can actually have that concrete evidence and data to say, yes, we are doing our best, and or what can we do to improve? Because we do want to continue to evolve our care with the animals.
Yeah. So the lion pride that just came, that we went out and filmed, you had old lions before. So tell me how that's been different from the beginning ones and then the new ones now.
So yes, when we had originally our group, we had one female originally when I started, and we received a couple younger males. Eventually we had those three together, so we had 2 males and a female. Now they had been really, I think their personalities were very mellow. They had been received from a breeder that might have been even hand raised at one time. So the lions that we have now have been bred in zoos, and they've not had that hand raising, so they're definitely wild. Not that we went in with the other ones, but they were also wild. But there was just, it's definitely a lot more intense, I would say, and of course they're younger, so they keep you on your toes. When you get comfortable with having the same animals, because we care for them until they pass. And for Matamba, that was, he's almost 22 years old. That's pretty old for a lion. And then you get in then a 9-year-old or an 8-year-old. Like they definitely remind you that, oh yeah, Matamba used to be that way, but then he got old. So it's definitely a challenge. So managing then going from 1 or 2 very aged animals and the care that they take, the medications that we take for them, how we shift them in the hot or the cold temps, all different with an aging animal versus these younger ones who want to go outside readily, and in the winter they're going to feel comfortable out there because they're going to have a nice layer of fat, and then just shifting them in. And so we are in the process of getting to know them, so then we can continue to evolve their care with some managed care with medical care. And then they're going to need to participate with that. So
that's right.
Yeah.
That'll be fun though.
Yeah, it always is fun.
So let's talk a little bit about those. So you have the girls, the females, and then Sahar is the male, and they're adjusting fine.
They are wonderful. Yeah, they're rolling out in the yard and they just are like they've been here for years.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. And so did you have to do anything different to their exhibit before they got here?
We did. We changed a couple of the indoor security features. So the shift doors that raise and lower, we added an extra pole that would hold that door shut. Okay. Again, they have claws, so if they were to sink their claws into the shift door and want to lift it, we want to make sure our staff is protected. And then in the yard, we redid some of their shade, made it a little larger. And we did add a little bit of hot wire around the top just because they are younger, and not that they will leap out, but just as a precaution. And then just kind of the management of them, again, going from one animal, our keepers had to then the challenge of managing 3 again.
Right.
And we have, our keepers have been there 3 and 4 years, but they had the aging animal. So just kind of learning how to manage 3 coming in for meals. What do you do with the enrichment? Because they can have some scuffles if they're getting fed. So just that management of them. But other than that, the exhibit is very good for that size of group. And the girls and Sahar have enjoyed it, and they are very comfortable inside now and outside. So it's really worked out well.
Good. I was out there a couple of weeks ago and I saw they were just chilling, just
Yeah.
laying. The first day we were out there, they were not.
Yeah, I would
They
say
were
Sahar was pretty nervous at first, but once the girls were out right off, they were like, "You're okay."
Yeah, good. So let's talk about the giraffes and how has that changed? Because that's kind of an animal that everybody loves, it seems like. So
Yeah, so we did have Jojo, our male, who was born about 2 years ago. We had not had a giraffe birth out at the zoo for, probably over 10 years, maybe 15 years. So then once we had him, then you have 4 giraffe managing kind of in we had 3 separate stalls, let's say. And so we did have to expand off to the north a little bit in our exhibit to make a 4th stall. And really that's because you have to be able to hold offspring for maybe up to 3 years sometimes, because you can't just have a young and then decide, okay, where's it gonna go? So whenever we breed, we do make sure we have a place for them to go. And so we had to expand that. And also then we redid the island out front and kind of added some new branching around there and support, just because now we had a younger, more spry animal again. And we have quite a bit of shift door changes, as in areas where we can get to their feet to do hoof work. Because we do have our male, I think he's about to be 18, and you have to kind of maintain their hooves like you do horses.
Sure.
So we've made some of those changes as well. But with Jojo, he did really well with the space and the exhibits. It was kind of just maneuvering all the shifting back and forth when he started to get a little more mature and, big and pushy.
Okay, so over the 20 years, it's obviously gotten somewhat easier with just the improvements that have been made.
I think definitely with the management, that ability to have that flexibility, if you need to hold someone here or shift them on this side or that side to be able to assess, definitely it takes a lot of the stress off of, I think, the care staff to know you have those options and choice for the animals.
Sure.
It's great when the animals can choose to separate themselves or be in this space or that space, and we want to give them as much choice as possible.
Well, good. It's a great place. Love it out there.
Great.
Brenda, thank you so much for joining us today.
Well, you're quite welcome.